Hey, what's going on? It's time for Bitch, Moan, and Complain, the first episode podcast from me, you know, your host with the most, Griever as always, and all that fun jazz. We're going to talk about a few things right about now. We're going to talk about some stuff, but in the long haul, let's just say, how are ya? How's your Monday going? How's November treating you? This 2022 shit, man, it's pretty fucked up. The reason I'm starting this podcast is, and I'm gonna invite people on, VC and all that fun jazz. I'm gonna invite people here to once again bitch, moan, and complain. I thought about calling it Griever's Grievering. I thought that was kind of, a double entendre. It was kind of funny, but I decided no, because what I want to do with this one is just a download, just to upload, download, whatever you want to call it, just to get it all out there. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys want to bitch, if you guys want to moan, if you guys want to complain, let me know. Let me know in the chat, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about all your issues. We'll talk about all of my issues. To me, I think this is a therapeutic way of saying, hey, I don't like A, B, and C that happened this week. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these are not necessarily meant to do extremely well by the view count. It's just more, a little bit for you guys, a little bit for me. Okay. Apparently the bit rate's not great. I don't know why. I just got an internet upgrade. Let's talk about that for a minute. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to jump into the VC of my Discord. If anybody wants to jump in, that's more than fine and dandy. Though with a bad internet connection, I don't know why the fuck I would do it. But anyways, yeah. So I'm going to jump into the particulars. If anybody wants to jump in, they're more than welcome to. Now, let's talk about a few things, because this whole podcast is basically what I want to sort of do here with this one is, well, once again, bitch, moan, and complain, right? Hence the title. But I want to talk about a few things that are going on in the world. I want to talk about some real world shit, here and there. But not like overly. I don't want this to be too political. I don't want it to be too religious bait. I don't want it to be any of that shit. So all I want to do with it is talk about things that are actually happening. For example, Jason David Frank dying. The Green Power Ranger. The original, the OG, the Green Power Ranger, Dragon Zord, the White Power Ranger, the Red Zero Power Ranger, the Black Dino Power Ranger. He's dead. He apparently committed suicide the other day. And that's just a fucking slap in the face. You know what I mean? That's just a hard fucking slap in the face to everyone, in my opinion. He's beloved by everyone who grew up in the 90s and stuff like that. Once again, a lot of people think that suicide is the coward's way out. And I don't prescribe to that theory whatsoever. I think people have a lot of mental health issues. I think people have demons, for lack of a better term. And sometimes, you know what? They have a moment of weakness. Like, look, I'm a cocky son of a bitch. But I got moments of weakness all the time. Not necessarily to that level, but I've got moments where I think, like, what's the point? What's this? What's that? Depression, anxiety, stress. Trust me, if you're in any type of situation, or if you're in relationships, and if you're in works relationships, if you're in any type of relationship, you know that there's ups and downs. And there's ups and downs with everything. There's a relationship with yourself. There's a relationship with your better half. There's a relationship with your parents, with your brothers, with your sisters, with your friends, with your family, with your co-workers. There's relationships with your work in general. There's relationships with how you view the world and how the world views you. There's a relationship with religion. Even if you're not a religious person, you have a relationship, you know? So there's a lot of shit that goes into that stuff. So even if it is true, and Jason David Frank, unfortunately at 49 years old, committed suicide, I feel bad for his kids. You know, I feel really bad for his kids, and I hope that, you know, they knew how loved their dad was, you know, across an entire generation of kids, teenagers, and adults, you know, because he is the Power Ranger, you know, so, very, very sad with that one. But just to go out on an extra limb with that one is, you know, we're never going to know what went on with that. I mean, the media will try to tell you, and I always think that that's sensationalizing, and that's very, very, very wrong. You know, I don't agree with these, like the Jeffrey Dahmer shows and all that stuff. I don't agree with those. I think that's sensationalizing, and I think that's fucking ludicrous. I think that's stupid. So, yeah, there's a lot to go down when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, I just want to say right now, like, I may or may not make a video, but if I don't, at least I have this opportunity right now to say what a legend, what a man, what a legacy Jason David Frank is leaving behind, and I'm very sorry that I'm never going to see him play Tommy Oliver ever again. That's very sad to me. But yeah, we shouldn't ignore the chat. So, and by the way, we have 6 people in here and only 1 like. I don't know what's going on with the algorithm there, ladies and gentlemen, but maybe jump into that like button a little bit. Kane said, Cowboys will always be at the bottom of the pack. Well, just so we're clear, they're actually tied for second of the pack, and Washington is at the bottom of the pack right now. Just so we're clear. Kane said, FIFA is extremely corrupt and only wants money. Thankfully, I'm not into soccer, or football. So, yeah. Kane said, rip to Jason David Frank. May he rest in peace as the greatest Power Ranger of all time. My thought, sentiments. I'm glad you said it as well, Caden. Caden said, personally, I think you're extremely strong if you can kill yourself because your body naturally tries to fight against you if you try to kill yourself. Exactly. You ever try to drown yourself without fucking tying a fucking, 80-pound weight, and dropping yourself off on a boat in the ocean? It's very hard to drown. It's very difficult to drown oneself without a shit ton of narcotics or with a weight tied to your feet. Because the body will naturally fight against, regardless what your mental state is, the body is going to fight to survive. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Caden said, in all honesty, he kept his emotions in check because I never figured him to be the suicidal type. Yeah, the problem with this, well, it's always an issue regardless, but some people you can sort of tell. Once again, none of the fans knew Jason David Frank personally, I would argue, but this came as a huge shocker. He wasn't a man who went off the rails. He's not, when Aaron Carter dying was sort of, I'm surprised he lived that long. You know what I mean? If I heard that Lindsay Lohan, Macaulay Culkin, all these childhood actors, Daniel Radcliffe, if I heard that they all offed themselves tomorrow, it'd be a tragedy, but it wouldn't be a shocker. It's a shocker to me that Jason David Frank would do it because to me it came out of nowhere. I mean, whatever demons, as I use the term loosely, he was fighting, clearly he lost the war in the end, and that's really, really sad. But yeah, you don't know. Once again, if you don't personally know someone, how can you tell? So even my assumptions about these childhood stars being fucked up may or may not be. That's only our perception, what the media gives us. So, and that's very arrogant to say as well. So, very, very sad. Joseph's in here and says, may Jason David Frank rest in peace and good wishes and positive vibes to his family and friends. Absolutely. Joseph said, Tommy Oliver is one of my favorite, spelt wrong, superheroes. Yeah, he is. I mean, he's my original. I still have a Tommy Oliver, the original Power Ranger action figure. I have the original green Power Ranger action figure, the very first edition, like the first one. And it's just I always thought for some reason we would get one more shot at it, something really cool, something where they would bring back, I mean, like Trini died at like 23, 24, something like that in a car accident and stuff like that. So there was never going to be like Power of Red was once again a culmination of such greatness and such fanfare, and that was fantastic. But there's also the level of jumping into that. I always just figured we'd have one more outing, one more shot. Having maybe getting Billy and Zach and everybody back together again for one last hurrah, and somehow try to, because all the other ones are still alive, Zach's alive, and you don't consider it. You don't consider like thinking about that. Like when people are old, they're old. Like Angela Lansbury and Betty White, they both died this year. Well, Betty White died literally at the beginning of the year, but nonetheless, those two, they were in their 90s. Little expected. Like, sad, but all right. Like I'm sad, but they were in their 90s. It was sort of time to go, right? But like Jason David Frank at 49 or Kevin Conroy at 66, my Batman, the greatest Batman ever, dying at 66, like that's too young to me. My dad is 5 years away from being 66. I'm not ready to fucking lose my dad. Not if you told me in 5 years I'm going to lose my father, I'd be, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not, yeah, these guys, some people are just dying way too young now, it seems. Like, and it's just, yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Kane said, people like to make fun of the Naruto fans because of what the creators said about guns, and they say that Naruto characters loses to Bleach characters, but didn't a captain in Bleach lose his eye to a gun? He did indeed. I don't know what exactly Naruto creator said, but he didn't lose to him, he just got his eye shot out by him. Kane said, the only reason Yamamoto lost is because of prep time and him being too cocky. A little bit there, yeah. Yeah, the stolen Bankai is a problem. Kane said, I love how in the new episode of Bleach, we got to see the OG original captains and see how strong they were. There's a rumor, spelt wrong, to say that they're going to get their own spinoff. That would be awesome. Or if we get more information down the line, that would be fantastic. I really enjoyed the last episode. Of course, you guys can definitely go check that out. I reviewed the episode on this channel. And of course, I also was part of the watch group for Miss Content. So when he drops the group watch video, which I believe he's already dropped, you can definitely go check that out. Joseph said, didn't the Dahmer show shed some light on some unknown facts about the case? I'm not aware, but once again, I don't believe in sensationalizing. And I think that I really, outside of a documentary point of view, like a strictly like a Forensic Files or a Dateline, you know what I mean? A strictly documentary point of view, I feel like dramatizing and sensationalizing rapists, murderers, that kind of stuff is in poor taste. And I do not agree with the production companies, the actors who agree to it, anybody involved with that project. I think they should really, take a look in the mirror for a moment, because I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think, I wouldn't know who Jeffrey Dahmer was if these shows didn't come out. So now I know. So you have made this psychopath famous. You've made a psychopath famous. And what good does that do the victims? What good does that do the general populace? It doesn't do anybody any good other than sensationalize a killer. What good is that? You know, like, I fail to see, I really do fail to see the, that kind of stuff. Let's see. There's a lot of warnings on the bit rate of the stream right now. Is the stream okay? I'll try to fix it if I can. Apparently I can't without canceling the stream. It says the stream's bit rate is really low, which is ironic because I just doubled my internet speed. It's not an excellent connection, apparently. It's just a good connection, but still. I don't think there's anything I can realistically do about that. There's no drop frames, apparently. And everything's apparently working all right, so. Yeah. So, yeah, Kane said, personally, the very first Power Ranger show I ever watched was Dino Force. I loved them as a teacher and role model in that series. Oh, Dino Thunder. Yeah. Yeah. Joseph said, you mean Dino Thunder. Right, where he's the black Dino Thunder Ranger. Yeah. Kane said, yeah, Dino Thunder. Sorry about that. I was also thinking about some of the other franchises. Yeah, that's fine. Joseph says, but no normal person would love them or idolize them. I know that some love letters were sent to some serial killers, but remember, I said normal. Yes, but still, at the end of the day, sensationalizing a serial killer is, in my opinion, poor taste. You don't need to agree with the opinion. Once again, this is just me bitching. This is me bitch, moaning, and complaining. Hence the podcast, right? So yeah. Joseph said my first exposure to Power Rangers was Dino Thunder as well. My first exposure was the original, Mighty Morphin. So I've been here a long fucking time. I actually own the VHS tape where Jason David Frank was first introduced into the series. That's how old I fucking am. Caden said, I don't like that Jeffrey Dahmer show because all it did was open a window to make other famous serial killers shows and get people to idolize them, which is wrong. Yeah, because even if, like Joseph was saying, even if certain, like it's a small percentage and people like send love letters and stuff, you are literally sensationalizing a serial killer that most people don't know about. Now, all right, let's just give an argument. Let's say 1 million people know about it, right? Then you make this show. Now, 100 million, 500 million people know about it, right? Okay, so now you have 500 million people knowing about this shit. And now, or let's go lesser. Let's go 10 million. So you went from 1 million to 10 million. Now, out of that 10 million, can you honestly say they're all sane? Can you honestly say they're all normal, to use lack of a better word? And then you have these people, like, if you go on the Facebook videos and the YouTube shorts and the TikToks and the Instagrams and all that stuff, they're, you know, like, oh my God, like, even if they think the actor is hot, it's not good to showcase, like, it's not, I don't know a way to describe it, but it's just wrong. It's wrong for that to be shown and then for women to be hot for a fucking mass murderer. You know, that's not okay. You know? Like, once again, you're into what you're into, and you can be into the actor and his performance, and maybe you still find him sexy and stuff, and that, once again, like Jeffrey Dahmer, that was part of the problem, and these women are feeding into that issue that a Jeffrey Dahmer is going to happen again, because you have women getting wet for this type of shit, because he is charming, and he is suave, and he is all those things. And now, the next time another Jeffrey Dahmer comes around, it's going to happen again. And it's going to be excused because he's hot, he's sexy, he's suave, he's all the things that let him get away with it for far too long. Like, if Jeffrey Dahmer was some fat, balding, pimply-eyed fuck, half his crimes wouldn't have happened. That's a fact. Half of any serial killer. Serial killers base themselves in being James Bond, in being the charming, suave gentleman. They are charming and they are that way. But the problem with Hollywood is that, and Netflix and all that stuff, is that they are sensationalizing this, and it's just opening up to a wider audience of victims. That's all you're doing. And a lot of the women who go, yeah, I mean, that is pretty hot, think that that's okay. They're not looking at the ramifications of that action, and when they get hurt or they become the victim, there's an issue there. That's all I'm saying. Kane said, I don't think people should be making money off of shows about real-life serial killers. It shows disrespect to the victims of that killer. I hope there's some royalties going to the victims' families in some regard for these shows, though. Like, if they're going to make them anyways, please, for the love of God. Kane said, the creator of Naruto said when he was thinking about creating Naruto, he didn't want guns in the manga because he thought it was stupid that people would be able to dodge bullets. Kane said in the new Boruto chapter they legit introduced an actual god. The way he reached godhood was eating thousands of chakra fruits for thousands of years, and he transcended because of it. So he's like a pseudo-god. He's just OP as shit because he kept eating. Interesting. Okay, so we also found out that ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu all originate from divine jutsu. Basically, it's saying that all the duties we know is just watered down versions of the divine jutsu. Yeah, Boruto is terrible as a result. It's always been terrible, but at least now we know for sure. Kane said, you know how people go blind if they overuse their MS? That's because they're not supposed to be used some of their godlike abilities, since they're using a watered down version of divine jutsu. Alright, cool. Joseph said, so does this mean I shouldn't go along and throw away my idea of bringing in real-life evil humans into my story? No, not at all. You should always be able to showcase it, but you should showcase it as evil. You can showcase something as the forbidden fruit, if you will. It's been done in fiction since the dawn of time. But the idea, it's different. If you write a fictional story is far less volatile. This is how a lot of mothers got mad about Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto did not create serial killers. It did not create that kind of shit. But the idea is that when you create a fictional story, it's fiction, and it's known as fiction. Now, however, we're getting these stories based on true stories, or movies that are a drama documentary. So it's as close to the truth as you can get, and then you watch it and you read it and you absorb it, and then you know that actually happened. It's far different having evil characteristics of mankind in a fictional story than showcasing what literally happened 30 years ago to poor people in the country, like that. There's a line, and where you want to draw it is up to you, but I don't believe you should sensationalize real life victims and real life serial killers. I think that's wrong. That's just me. Or if you're going to do it, it better be handled in the most careful of senses possible, and I don't think it is being handled that way, for example, in the Jeffrey Dahmer show. Yeah, Kane said they keep 100% of the profit, none of it goes to the victims' families. Do we know that for certain, or are you just spitballing? Because, I don't know how you would find out that information. If they were paid $100,000 to start a show, would you know about it? Would you know if a production company wrote a private check to a private family? Nobody would know that. That wouldn't be on record. Not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that we might not know. Joseph said, because in my story, a part that takes place in the present, I came up with a story arc where Satan takes souls out of hell, meanders them in demonic superpowered warriors. Which, once again, this is all based in supernatural and fiction. That's different. It's far different when you have that aspect. Kane said, personally, I think it's okay if you take some real life events and put them into your story if it'll give a sense of realism. Exactly. So you can add as much realism into a story as you want. And you can make as much additions to this and showcase evil and bad, the worst side of human nature if you choose. But to literally profit off the deaths of victims of a serial killer is much different than writing an evil character into a fictional story. Kane said, but what they are doing, making shows about real-life serial killers, is 100% different from what you're doing. They're trying to make a profit off of horrible events. Exactly. Kane said, you are taking inspiration to make a fictional story for people to enjoy. Right. That's exactly. That is exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah. So, moving on to, let's see. So, we're still bitch, moaning, and complaining here in the podcast, because that's all we do. We have, so the other issue, there was a couple of topics I wanted to bring up. I guess we talked about Jeffrey Dahmer, so maybe I'll have to change the name of the stream. But that's fine. But the second topic I wanted to bring up was work issues. And this is just me bitching. But we've been, basically, my company has held a contract. It's not a real contract according to the government, but it's a contract for every 3 years. It's renewed every 3 years. And we've held it for 2 decades. And unfortunately, they're just taking away. They're trying to kick us out. There are people in higher management that just have it out for us, and I'm not being like exaggerating, and I'm not fucking being hyperbole. I'm not being any of that shit. I'm just saying it's just a fact, because we had no problem for 18 years. 18 fucking years, never an issue. Now all of a sudden there's issues, and nothing has changed. It's the same staff, it's the same people doing the same work in the same buildings, so there's no problem. But we got our security clearance, not revoked. We still have our security clearance, but we had our access taken away. We had our little area where we kept, a couple of ladders and some gear and that kind of stuff, some drills and that kind of stuff. We had that taken away. And then to top it all off, they said at the last minute, without any warning, saying we're out of money until after Christmas. So right away, like in my mind, from a work perspective, I'm like, that's just bad business. That's bad faith. To use a lawyer term, that's bad faith. Because generally speaking, when the budget's getting close, generally speaking, when you have, sure, we are only contractors, but at the end of the day, when you've been working with a company for 2 decades, when you've been there longer than most of the staff in a building, you generally have a little bit of, and here's the issue, they're going to call it favoritism. And the moment you use that word, they shut you the hell out, because you cannot favor contractors. At the end of the day, we're no different than the guy who works out of his Honda Civic and shows up tomorrow. They have as much as right to be there as any of us. They're no different from us, right? And from a certain perspective, I understand that. But in another perspective, I sit back and I'm like, well, now you are disrespecting us. You're disrespecting the history, the longevity, the quality of work that we have provided for over 20 years, right? And apparently that means nothing. absolutely nothing to the government of Canada. Doesn't mean anything to any of these people. And once again, I'm not going to name names on this podcast, even though I only have 900 subscribers. I never want this to get back and shoot me in the foot, right? So I'm not going to name the company. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to do any of that. Just to protect our assets, of course, because God forbid you actually bring up a legitimate problem. Because I actually looked into it. I looked into how do I complain about a government employee with abuse of power or anything like that? How do I go about doing that without shooting myself in the foot and being out of a $500,000 contract? How do I go about complaining without losing? And there is no way to do that. So as much as I like to think that, Canada is a better country than a lot of countries, and we are, we're not in the top, we might not be in the top 5, but we're definitely not in the bottom 5, you know what I mean? But there are these type of issues. And once again, these are first world issues. But since I was born and raised in a first world country, I only have this perspective to go off of, right? So it's definitely, for me personally, this work shit. It's, I thought it was a disservice and disrespectful for them to not only take away our access and basically kick us out of our little area that we were in, which all the stuff is now in my garage, which is, by the way, is all stuff that only applies to their site. So I don't, you know what I mean? I've got thousands of dollars worth of parts that I can't sell on eBay because they're only good for that. They're specific parts for specific gear. But God forbid we store them over there. And the last part being that, and then basically as we were told, because we called the meeting saying, hey, we want to talk about our access. This is totally unfair and this is stupid and going to cost you guys a lot more money. Their word about it was, we know it's going to cost more money. We don't care. And your guys are out of budget anyway, so sucks to be you. That was pretty much how we got treated in the meeting. And it was disrespectful. It was insulting. And I've had a few choice words about the people in that meeting. I've had a few choice words about the people causing this shit, because I think they're full of shit for a lot of it. But at the end of the day, this is really unfortunate. But yeah, so that's, once again, this is my podcast, so this is just me bitching about work. But if you guys want to bitch about your particular work situation, you guys let me know as well, because once again, I'm always open to. Hence, this is the Bitch, Moan, and Complain podcast. I appropriately named it for a reason. I named it this so that I could bitch, moan, and complain, and you guys could also bitch, moan, and complain if you felt the need. So, but yeah, so I didn't care for how we were treated. I feel like it's either I don't know how to describe it. It's either man hating, contract hating, or contractor hating, or it boils down to the fact that there's a hierarchy. There's people that literally think that we, as just being electricians, they're above us. We're below them. They will never treat us or talk to us as equals because they literally think they're above us. And that's a very hard pill to swallow as someone who has a shit ton of cocky attitude, a shit ton of pride. And then you go on this line, you go down this dark tunnel, which is really unfortunate. You go down this dark tunnel that I feel, especially when you're dealing with women or with really small guys, because you're thinking, if this was fucking only, like literally when I was born, if this was not even 100 years ago, if this was 30 years ago, there's no fucking way a woman would dare to talk to me like that. There's no fucking way a man half my size would dare to talk to me like that. And I'm not saying that it's right that that's how the world worked back then, but then I'm sitting there at a table eating a shit sandwich as a result of not being able to be, hey, I've got this. Sit the fuck down. You know, and there is that. So I get really frustrated because now I'm told that we have all this, and I don't want to bring up a lot of issues, but we have all this, there's white privilege, there's male privilege, there's masculinity, toxic masculinity, there's all this shit. Apparently I'm at fault for everything, being a blue-eyed white male, right? Living in a first world country. So I've got the triple set. I've got all the issues, right? And I sort of get it sometimes. I sort of get it when you're sitting across from a bunch of fucking assholes who you can't literally just reach over and be like, want to take this outside? You know, like, you can't do that anymore. And I sort of miss that we can't. Because there's no fucking way anyone would treat another human being in this manner. There's no fucking way the people would have this level of snark and this amount of authority, this presumed authority over someone, if there was any type of repercussions, if there's any physical ramifications for talking to another human being like that, they would never say half the shit they have ever said. Ever. And I get really irritated about that. I'm, you know. And I'm not saying that that's right, but the fact that it's gone this far, and the fact that I'm feeling, because I don't feel that way every single day, and I don't feel that way every single month. But in these certain situations, you just wish once in a while, it's like, let's go. You got a fucking problem with me, let's take it outside and put your fists up. Let's make this a fair fucking fight. Don't hide behind your fucking rules and your papers and your whole, oh, I'm just a girl, or oh, I'm a government employee, or oh, I'm fucking half your size, you know, or any other fucking identity they want to hide behind. Like, you got something to say to me, say it to my face. Don't go behind my back and have the balls to say it to me knowing there's physical ramification. And that's what you know, because nowadays, once they get that +1, they'll say anything. They'll say anything to you, and you have to sit there and take it. Because if you don't take it, if you say anything out of line, you're the one fucked. Because they are holding the cards. And I think that's totally unfair. I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying I want to go back to an archaic way where we do physical ramifications to people. But I think that if this +1 and the +2 and the +3 keeps happening across a table of lesser people acting like they're better, then I feel like the people on the other side of the table, what's our breaking point? What's the breaking point where eventually we are going to fucking start breaking tables and punching bitches in the face? I don't know what the breaking point is, but it's going to happen. And then I'm going to sit back and watch that news story that happens in New York City or LA or something like that. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to be watching that story. And my first question is not going to be, oh my God, how horrible. A man, 3 men beating the crap out of a group of men and women. I'm going to sit back and go, what the fuck did they do to them? Those 3 dudes, what the fuck did those fucking suits do? What did those government employees do to piss off these guys so much that they reached across the table and started smacking bitches? Like, that's... And then when I say bitches, I just mean whoever's across the table. The fact that I'm literally in a hypothetical situation already assuming that there's more to that story speaks volumes over the fact that there is too much... We've gone too much the other way. I'm not saying it was great being a white-dominated fucking society, white male-dominated, but I am seeing the repercussions of it not being as a white male, because it's certainly not fair to me. It's not fair to my entire company. It's not fair to any of the companies that work for this specific area. So, yeah, like, I'm beside myself with that one. So let's jump back into the chat now that we've covered, we covered Jason David Frank. We only covered Kevin Conroy a little bit, but we'll talk about him at the end. We already covered, that's my bitching about the work issues. Trust me, there was like a 30-minute video I recorded when this first all happened a few weeks ago, and I was way less kind. So I'm glad that video is not going to see the light of day. So I originally, my idea was to release that video, but I'm not going to. So we covered work issues. Let's catch up with the chat, and then we'll move on to sports. Joseph said, well, I, of course, plan to portray people like Jeff, Ted, and others as unlikable villains. How else am I supposed to portray them? It's certainly not good people. No, of course not. But once again, that's fictional. You're not sensationalizing that. Even if you say, hey, I took inspiration from fucking Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, doesn't mean that you intend, you know what I mean? Like, if you say, oh, I took inspiration from Hannibal Lecter and Norman Bates and all this stuff, it doesn't mean that those, like, when you're sensationalizing real life, it's far different. Kane said, how injured do you think Beelzebub is going to be after the attack Tesla dealt? I think pretty damaged. And most likely Tesla's going to take damage from his own attack since he's human. That's usually how it goes. Yeah, I think he's going to, either he's not going to be able to use that attack again or only one more time. And Beelzebub's going to be damaged but not down and out. Kane said, World War III is about to happen. All the signs are there. They're just waiting for that. They've been saying that for 20 years, though, to be fair, Caden. World War III was supposed to happen when I was a child in the 90s. So, let's keep waiting. It's about to happen. All the signs are there. Just waiting for that one event to happen. Start the snowball effect like the other World War started. It's true. It takes one event. But if the Ukraine war didn't start it, I don't know what will. Caden said, Elon Musk literally single-handedly destroyed Twitter. Thank fucking God. Twitter sucked anyways. They were fighting people and he locked everybody out of the building, cutting off the key codes. Caden said he accidentally cut everybody's key code access and had to call the person who used to do everyone's key codes after they fired him so they could get it back into the building. Well, that's crazy. Joseph said, what if the next chapter is Tesla's backstory? I'd be okay with it. Caden said, they haven't shown Tesla's backstory yet. Maybe in the newest chapter this month we might get it, but who knows? It's true. We only have, 2 chapters before December? Before January, before the end of the year. We only have maybe 2 chapters. Joseph said, I don't know why we're suddenly talking about Record of Ragnarok. I mean, Caden said Record of Ragnarok is king. I mean, Record of Ragnarok is good. It used to be great. It's not great anymore. It's only good. It's only good now. Caden said, my landlord 2 days notice about me moving out on the 15th of this month. Wait, the 15th, so 7 days ago? So only had 2 days to get my stuff out of the house I was in. He said he had somebody that was going to move in on the 16th. God damn. So I assume you found a new place and got out in time. Joseph said, so as long as I portray them as completely accurate to real life, I'm not being insensitive. No, Joseph, you're not being insensitive regardless how you portray them. The idea is what we're talking about. I think you're misinterpreting. What Caden and I have been discussing, what I've been talking about, is the fact that when you literally say Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Cruz, etc., they are ABC, and you make a show literally called the Ted Cruz Show, and you fucking or Ted Bundy, because Ted Cruz is just an asshole. He's not a killer. Anyways, wrong name. But if you make Jeffrey Dahmer, they literally made a show, the Jeffrey Dahmer Show, and they're showcasing that. If you make somebody based on Hannibal Lecter, that's irrelevant. There's a line. As I said, it's a line. There's a line, and it's very difficult to understand. People have to draw that line for themselves. My line is, when it's real life, don't fucking make movies and fucking shows about the real life situation. If you make a fictionalized version with enough characteristics that it's not the same idea, fine dandy. Kane said, you don't have to portray them 100% the same way as they were in real life. You can take creative freedoms for some of the stuff that they did and do your own thing with it. Yeah, Caden's making some good arguments for you there, Joseph. Caden said, people think just because they have a higher position or a perceived higher position than you in society or work that they are inherently superior to you. They do believe that these days. And therein lies the rub. It didn't exist back in the... It existed in... Here's the problem. It did exist, and there's this weird idea. It existed for rich white males. And the issue is now is that any white male that complains about being treated unfairly is basically being told, tough tits, we dealt with it. But you didn't deal with it. That's my point. You didn't. Your ancestors did. You know, the slaves 100 years ago did. And the women of the 50s and 60s did. But you, as a 23-year-old woman, did not suffer. You did not suffer. You, as an 18, 23, 25-year-old woman, did not suffer like they did 50 years ago. Shut the fuck up. You did not suffer that way. So, yes. And are we, as a white male, am I being punished now for the sins of all white, blue-eyed males? A little bit. Not completely, but a little bit. A little bit's tacked on. And for every 100 women and people of color and everybody else in power that are going to be unbiased and fair, there's always going to be also the man haters. There's going to be the white haters and stuff. And to pretend that there isn't, even if it's the smallest percentage, is just blinding to me. Yeah, it's just stupid. And once again, I think that's a very small percentage, but I am dealing with that currently in my professional job. I am dealing with a specific version of that happening right now. Once again, I don't know if it's man-hating. I don't know if it's a superiority complex. I don't know if it's white male problem. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a sexist issue. I don't know if it's whatever it is. But it's happening. I know it's happening, and it's unfair, but we have no cards to play. Everyone in our company we're not all blue-eyed, but we're all white males. So we don't have any cards to play. Our deck is empty, and we basically have to sit there and take it. And I think that that's unjust, and I think that's unfair, and I don't think I should be penalized. And here's the issue. Regardless, if you bring it up, you're fucked. Even if you win, you're fucked in the interim of bringing it up in the first place. God forbid you lose. So not only are you fucked, then you're doubly fucked because you lost anyways. And in this society, it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. It's a matter of what you can prove. And it matters on who's on the other side of the table, right? Joseph said, well, my goal is to portray characters based on real-life people or being as accurate as possible, which is fine, as I said. And once again, if you were to make the Jeffrey Dahmer show, Joseph, that's up to you. I'm saying I wouldn't do it or be a part of it. And I disagree with the idea of being a part of it. But if you want to do that, that's up to you. Kane said, fun fact, President Theodore Roosevelt is the only president that has tattoos. Yeah, apparently so. I've heard that. But didn't Obama confirm he has a tattoo? Kane said, personally, I am getting tired of the One Piece Naruto communities on TikTok because all they do is talk shit about each other. Or besides says the dog walk Naruto. Naruto does the same. Power scaling is cross-universe power scaling has been toxic since the dawn of time. Kane said One Piece would make the characters super OP. Naruto said would do the exact same thing. Both sides are extremely biased and most people don't know what they're talking about. This is very true. Joseph said, what type of person does it make me if I'm attracted to black women? You're attracted what you're attracted to, man. Doesn't mean you're anything. If you fetishize it, it's a little different. But to inherently be attracted to something, that's not something you can help. You're attracted. That's like people like to say like, oh no, that's sexist or that's racist or that's whatever. But it's not. It's not. If you listen to actually intelligent people, it's not. It's no different than if you were attracted to men. You know, like they've been fighting this battle. It's ironic to me that the LGBT community does not defend people that have what they call fetishes. It's not a fetish. It's not a fetish to be attracted to Asian women. It's not a fetish to be attracted to black men. It's not a fetish to be attracted. They have, in porn and media, has fetishized these issues, but they inherently are not fetishes. If you're more attracted to white women than other groups of women, that doesn't make you racist or sexist or whatever. It just means that you are more attracted to blondes with big tits. Like, that's what you're into. It's no different than saying, I really like tall women. You know? You're really into black women. It's no different. It's a trait. It's a physical trait. Them being black has nothing to do with anything regarding that. And it's ironic because they're always saying that, I'm surprised that the LGBT community doesn't support that more because I've seen them not do that. Is at the end of the day, they say it's a fetish. It's not a fetish. It's no different than saying guys are, gay people are attracted to men. And it's like, they can't help being attracted to dicks. You can't help being attracted to ebony skin. I'm not going to burn the gay guy at the stake, and I'm not going to burn the person that likes an African chick at the stake. You know what I'm saying? Makes no sense. Like, what if it was an accent that turned you on? You know what I mean? What if it was once again, tall, or fat, or skinny, whatever, small tits, itty-bitty titty community. What if that was to turn you on? There's no sexist, racist, homophobic-ist. There's no ist for being fan of big tits or small tits. There's no short women, tall women. So why is there a thing about skin color? See, it's people that are doing it only surface level. You're fine. You're absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to black women. I'm more attracted to Latinas. I really am. I think it goes for me. Like if I had to choose, it would always be a Latina of any description. Brazilian, like it's not specific. It could be Mexican, Guatemalan. It could be Brazilian. It could be anything like that. Venezuelan, El Salvadorian. Doesn't matter. I'm more attracted to Hispanic Latina women. Always have been. That's not a fetish. It's not a racist thing. It's not a sexist thing. It's just what I'm attracted to. I generally speaking, if you were to line up 100 white women, 100 of every single demographic, I would more likely go with the group of Hispanic or Latina women. And there's nothing wrong with that. So there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, man. You're fine. Because there are some people who say I'm ruining humanity for wanting to be in an interracial relationship. Well, I'll put it to you this way. I'm in an international interracial marriage, so you're fine. Kane said, personally, I say love who you love no matter what skin tone they are. Half of my nephews are interracial. The only people that say stuff like that are on either side are racist people. Exactly. And by the way, I would argue that I didn't check the stats. Last time I checked them, it was 83%. 83% of everyone living in North America is not truly black. They're half black at best, and then it goes downhill. Okay? So they're 1/8, 1/16, 1/64. There are very few African true 100% black people living in North America. That is a small ass minority. You know, most black people you see in America, in Canada and America, are at best, third or quarter. Not even really half blacks anymore because, once again, generational. You know, unless you see a fucking dude in his 80s, maybe he's from Africa, but, like, seriously. So I'm agreeing with Caden on that one. Joseph said, I don't know what it is, but I find black women very attentive. You find them attentive or attractive? I mean, either way. Once again, a generalization, and it's weird. Whenever you bring up a generalization like, hey, I don't know, I find white women to be bitchy. It's like, oh, well, what are you being? Like sexist, racist, whatever, against white women? It's like, no, I just find that my experience with 100 white women has not been a good one. And my experience with 100 black women has been that they're very attentive, you know, like, you know, you're going to base on your own conclusions. Kane said, if black people say that they're racist, if black people say that they're racist, if white people say that they're racist, if any person says that if you marry outside your skin tone or is attracted to people outside your skin, racist. I don't know what Caden's trying to say. I assume what he's trying to say is, I think what Caden is trying to say with that one is, if someone has a problem with you marrying outside of your ethnicity, then they're racist. Which I would agree with, yeah. Joseph said, I'm also a child of an interracial marriage. My mom is Venezuelan and my dad is Portuguese, but I was born here in America. Alright, so you're all over the place. Caden said, personally, I like every single skin tone of the human race. I think every skin tone has its advantages and disadvantages. Me personally, I like them all. That's just me. I personally, once again, I'm more into Latinas. And I'm least attracted to, generally speaking, either people of Asian or Middle Eastern descent. That's, generally speaking, I generally don't find them that attractive. But, once again, you could always find, a random, like there's a woman who played Jackie Chan's sister in Shanghai Noon. She's got to be one of the most gorgeous fucking Asian women I've ever seen in my life, along with Lucy Liu. I find them incredibly attractive, but generally speaking, I don't find Japanese women attractive. I generally don't find them attractive. They can have a nice body, but in facial structure, I don't find them attractive. Once again, that's not racist. That's just my personal. I think you're a 5, not a 10, you know? Some people think that I'm a 10. Other people think I'm a 1. Does that make them racist or against me? No. If you think that I'm only a 1 out of 10, fine dandy. But there are some women out there who would probably be like, habada, 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 let's get on his dick. Right? 1 out of 10 is not wrong, and neither is 10 out of 10 wrong. They're both right in their own perspective. There's nothing wrong with that. Joseph said, I'm mainly talking about a black man named Umar Johnson when I say people calling interracial marriages evil. I don't know who Umar Johnson is. Caden said, I have no idea who that dude is. Caden said, technically, Whitebeard got killed by bullets and pointy sticks. It was already... technically, yes, but being killed... People have been shot by 1 bullet and died. That's not a non-feat. I know what you're trying to do there, Caden, but that doesn't count. Joseph said, he basically a misogynistic, homophobic black supremacist. That is very unfortunate, which I find odd. Like, once again, I do find it, like, I'm not agreeing with what necessarily, like, I'm not, like, a Go Biden fan or anything. I am an anti-Trump. I'm not against I'm against anybody who thinks that Trump's a good idea. Not necessarily for Biden, but I do think that it's hilarious to me when you have black people or Latinos or women who support Trump. I need to think like, you clearly didn't get past a third grade education, did you? He hates you. He treats women as objects. And he is racist against black and Latinos and everybody who's not white. So, like, what are you doing? I don't get it. I literally don't get it. It makes no sense. So it always makes me laugh when I hear about a black supremacist or something like that. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, what happened? Joseph said, sorry, I mean attractive. Yeah, I got that. Joseph, forgive my bad spelling during this time. I'm walking while listening. Nah, it's all good. Joseph said, but I'm glad to have this talk with others. Nah, it's all good. That's what it's here for. Kane said, isn't Lisu Chinese, not Japanese? I have no idea. Let's look that up. Once again, that was not racist. That was me being not knowing. She's an American. Okay. Well, there you go. She's American. She's not Chinese or Japanese. So she is American. What is her... she is... I guess she's of Chinese descent. So yeah, Lucy Liu is Chinese. Well, there you go. So... Kane said, it's the eyes, isn't it? The eyes throw you off. That's why my friends always said anyways, basically said exactly what you said, and that was their explanation. It's not, no, it's actually not. Well, sometimes it can be the eyes. I find it very scary to me personally, and this is why I think movies like, I forget what that black movie is. But there's that black movie with the really dark skinned people. When really dark skin, like I'm talking African dark, when they have their eyes wide and you see the whites and stuff, that's way scarier than a white person doing it. And when Asians do it, like The Grudge or Ju-on or The Ring or whatever, when you have these Asian women who just, you know, open their eyes really wide and stuff, where you know that naturally it's supposed to look like they're half closed all the time. It's very scary to see them wide-eyed. So I think as a result of being freaked out as a young teen by those horror movies and stuff, I think that sort of shaped my perception of how I'm freaked out. You know what I mean? But it's not just the eyes. It's how straight and black their hair is. Their hair is so dark. Once again, I'm married to a Latina, but her hair has volume. Like, Japanese women and Chinese women, they can grow this, like, black hair, but it always looks like it's wet. It always looks like it's straight down. Like they wake out of bed with a straight iron. And it's something about it, it weirds me out. Once again, it's just my perception. There's nothing wrong. You know, and I'm not going to hate on any person I meet, you know, like whether I'm attracted to them or not. Once again, I find it irrelevant as a married person. I find it irrelevant to be attracted what I'm attracted to in any respect. If I said right now that I find white men fucking ugly as sin, right? Or black men, I find them ugly as sin. Or black women, I find them ugly as shit. Never would date one, blah, blah, blah. That is irrelevant because I'm already a married person. I'm not on a dating app or whatever, so there's no relevance to any of my preferences. Whether I say it here online or I say it in private, it's redundant because I already have a wife. It doesn't matter what I'm attracted to. It really has no bearing on anybody's life. Not in your life, not in my life, because I am attracted to my wife, and that's the one I married, and that's literally all that matters. So it's really irrelevant. Regardless what I do find attractive or not. Joseph said, just to reassure, I'm saying that I find black women attractive. find any. I've met many black women that I thought were hot. Damn. Joseph said, you know what's crazy? Umar Johnson actually has people who believe him. So did Trump. Look at the storming of the fucking, Congress and all that shit. Caden said they're Parliament Hill or whatever the fuck they did. Once again, I'm Canadian, so I only pay half attention. Caden said that's actually a small group of Canadians that believe that the U.S. owns... Actually, a small group of Canadians that believe that the U.S. owns Canada. Trump is the second coming of Jesus, basically. I didn't think they actually exist, but I looked it up and they do. Are they from... They're either from Alberta or Toronto. Because Toronto is basically American. Toronto is a city filled with Americans that got lost and found their way into Canada. Toronto is the worst city in the world. That and New York are the two worst cities I've ever been to in my life. They're absolutely dreadful cities. So they're probably from there. Kane said, I think Asian beauty standards are extremely unrealistic. Look it up. If you don't believe me, the beauty standard is extremely unrealistic to achieve most to our unhealthy degree. Well, once again, I think, beauty is person to person. What I find attractive and what you find attractive could be totally different. So when I go, hey, Caden, that's a fucking 10 out of 10, no question. You're like, 7. And I'm like, how the fuck is that a 7? You know? So, whether it's male or female, we're always going to find that, right? Caden said most famous people starve themselves or get plastic surgery to meet the extreme beauty standards that Asia has. This is true. When I say Asia, that includes China, Japan, Korea, and they all have the exact same beauty. There you go. Joseph said, I like having these conversations because I like it when other people reassure me that my tastes don't make a sexist pig or something. No, they don't. It's the way you present it, and some people, Joseph, at the end of the day are going to view that as sexist. When you come out and you say, it's no, in my mind, and the gay community might not like this, but it's no different to me saying, guess what? I'm a guy and I'm into men. There's no difference from, I'm a guy and I'm into black women. To me, there's no difference. It's what you are attracted to. It's not racist. It's not sexist. It's not any type of ist. It's just what you're into. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being more attracted to black women than women of other cultures. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Jesus Christ, I literally was more into Latinas than white women, so I went out to California, and now I'm married. Go figure, right? And I'm married to a Latina. There's nothing wrong with that either. You know, it doesn't mean that I don't find black women, white women, and Asian women, and any other women of any other culture attractive. Certain women, of course, are very attractive. Of all cultures, I find a multitude of women attractive. But in general, I am more attracted to Latinas, and I'm not going to apologize for that. That's stupid. Apologize for what you're into. It's just dumb. As long as it's in a consensual, healthy manner with consenting adults, there is no issue. It's not racist. It's not any type of ist. Kane said, know what I mean by beauty standard is literally the beauty standard for who they think are skinny or overweight. It's extremely unrealistic for the human body to meet these standards. Well, I feel very bad for the people in the East then. Caden said in a healthy way. Joseph said, I know that there are some horrible people in the world, but sometimes there are moments about certain bad people in the moment of people who support them that just shock me. Caden said, can we just agree that if you're attracted to younger individuals, 19 or below, you're a pedophile and you should burn in hell for all eternity? Well, the age of consent in Canada is 16, so you gotta give me at least that. But I do see where you're coming from. Yes. Because, for example, once again, there's always that meme rolling around. If you're an 18-year-old dating a 16-year-old, it's not okay. But if you're a 29-year-old dating an 18-year-old, it's legal? Like, wait a minute now. Two high schoolers, someone in 12th grade dating a 10th grader is not creepy. But a fucking 29-year-old dating a high schooler is okay? It's like, wait a minute now. You know, so you have to check your privilege. You got to check your realism when it comes to that shit. And nowadays, kids are growing up so fast. Like, I remember being 12 and 13, man. You know, everyone pretends, every generation pretends like kids aren't having sex until they're like into college. But like, everyone was fucking in junior high. So, like, you know, and I'm not saying it's good or bad or wrong or right or any of that shit. I'm just saying what's realistic. Realistically, 14 and 50-year-olds and 15-year-olds are fucking. You know, not all of them. But a good amount of them are. I know, I was one of them. My first time was with a 17-year-old when I was 13. It was awesome. So, I mean, you know, but nowadays they would call that statutory rape, sexual assault, something. You know, they'd get some label on it and she'd be in trouble. Well, she wouldn't be because she's a woman, so they'd probably slap her on the wrist. But, yeah. It's one of those, right? So, it depends on your definition. You gotta, you know. Ken said, you're not an adult until you turn 20. Well, you're an adult in this country when you turn 18. You're still a teenager at 19. No matter how mature you think you are, you're still a minor. Well, once again, you're an adult at 18 in Canada, so. And age of consent is 16. I can't change it, man. Joseph said, and the age of consent in Japan is 13. This is true, too. This is very true. Kane said, I don't care if the law says 18 is legal. If you're attracted to an 18-year-old just because they turned 18, you're a pedophile. Well, if you're attracted to them because of their age, then yeah. But you're not a pedophile if you're attracted to an 18-year-old. An 18-year-old is a legal adult. Whether she's 18 or 38, she's still an adult female. That's irrelevant. Those 24 months doesn't fucking matter. It does matter when you're talking pedophiles, man, like, we're talking 13-year-olds. We're talking 11-year-olds. Pedophiles aren't going after 18-year-olds, man. 18-year-olds can be in college. And once again, in a lot of countries, the age of consent is once you reach high school, once you're 16. So, I mean, it's, once again, that's your definition, and that's fine if you are good with that. Once again, my definition is, I find the letter of the law fucked anyways. Because, for example, a lot of these countries, like Japan, age of consent is 13. I think that's fucked. And a lot of people think the age of consent in Canada being 16 is fucked. However, there is a problem in both Japan and Canada where if I can have sex as I'm 31 years old, right? So I can have sex with a 16-year-old, 17, 18-year-old, no problem. As creepy as that is, I can do that. No legal ramifications. However, if I get a titty pic from a 17-year-old, jail. Work that one out. Getting a titty pic from a 17-year-old, from a high schooler, is worse than fucking her. Work that one out in your heads. See what I'm saying? Like, it's very weird how the law works in that regard. Once again, I wouldn't do it because, once again, I'm, you know. But I'm just saying, in general, you know. Because I remember when I was at a high school, and some of our friends, I remember my buddy was 21 and he was dating an 18-year-old. And how was that creepy? It's not. They're only a couple of years apart. You know, he just started college. She was graduating that year. She was 18. She was turning 19 in the summer. What's the big deal? They're only a couple of years apart. My aunt and uncle are 18 years apart. My other aunt and uncle are 14 years apart. You know? Like, hell, my wife is a year older than I am. So it was okay. So it wasn't okay for her to date me if we had met each other back when we were teenagers, it wasn't okay for her to date me when she was 18 and I was 17. But once she turns 19 and I turn 18, it's okay? That's stupid. That's dumb. You know? Kane said, all I'm saying is weird of a 30 or something year old is dating an 18 or 19 year old. I agree with that. In America, or 16 year old, 17 year old in Canada. That's just weird no matter how you look at it. I agree with it. I do agree with that. I do agree it's weird when you have this big age gap. I do. But I'm saying that the age gap, when you're talking like a 20, 21 year old dating a like 18, 19 year old, that's not that weird. Kane said, I think the youngest age of consent is like 11. That still creeps me out, but there's laws. Yeah, 11. Once again, 13's too young. I think 16 is fine. Once you enter high school, because everyone in junior high is fucking anyways, I think 16, they know what they're fucking doing. I remember being 16. It wasn't that long ago that I don't remember being 16. I remember being 13 and being horny, so. Kane said, but Lucy? I think it's a typo. Kane said, but Lucy, the age of consent basically means that they're dating around the same age as them, like 2 or 3 years older than them. Not somebody that's in their 40s most of the time. Yeah, no, I agree. Like a 16-year-old should not be dating a 35-year-old. I agree. I understand that one. I'm saying like if a 20, and I'm not saying this is great either, but if a 22-year-old is dating a 17-year-old, the 22-year-old shouldn't necessarily go to jail. That's what I'm trying to say. Because that's 5-year difference. If they were 23 and 28, you wouldn't give a shit. See what I'm saying? Joseph said, how does that work? Kane said, like if people have a 2 to 3 year age gap, that's good. That's fine. But if they have an extreme age gap, like 10 or 20 years type of age gap, it's fine if you're 20 going out with an 18-year-old. Yeah, there we go. Kane said, if you were 2 years apart, 3 years apart, they're basically in the same generation. That's okay. That's what I'm saying. But once again, if you were 3 years apart, and you were 17 and dating a 14-year-old, that's wrong. That's creepy, right? Because that is. Because 14 is a little young, right? I feel like once you get, the further you get up in years, the wider the age gap goes. That's why it's weird. Kane said, what I'm trying to say is, get at, is that 30 to 40-year-old somebody trying to get with somebody fresh out of high school or just get out of high school, that's wrong no matter how I look at it. Yes, I agree. I do agree with your sentiment that you're saying. You're basically saying that the 45-year-old, the guy old enough to be her father, should not be dating her. 100% I'm with you. It's creepy. I do agree. I do agree with that. Jeff said, Jeff Dahmer makes fun of himself with the age gap between him and his wife. Jeff Dunham. Is there an age gap between Jeff Dunham? I thought they split. You're talking about the ventriloquist, right? Kane said, if you're 26 and you decide to marry a 40-something, that's weird, but you're grown at that point. I don't think someone in the late 20s above should be dating 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. And once again, that's up to you. That's up to your discretion. Once again, I think it's okay if, once again, I'm with your rule. If there's a 2, 3, 4-year gap at the most, a teenager can date an early 20-year-old. Like a senior in high school can date a college student. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing creepy about that. I'm good with it. But I do understand when you have a college student trying to date someone who's a freshman in high school. That's kind of creepy. Yeah, I get that. Joseph said, how do you get arrested for nude pictures and not sex? That's weird. Yeah, it happens, though. It happens because what they consider that is child pornography. Because even though the legal age of consent in Canada or in Japan is 13 and 16 respectively, it's still considered worldwide, it's still considered child pornography below the age of 18. So you can fuck a 16-year-old in Canada or a 17-year-old in Canada, but you cannot have pictures of it. This is pretty much how it works. It's very strange. The law has not caught up with the times. How's that? Kato said, do you think your morals were given to you through a doctrine? No. because I was not raised in any particular religion or group. I was told to say Protestant when people asked, but I never went to church. I shouldn't say that. I was brought to church a couple of times by different relatives and friends of the family and stuff, but I was never forced to go to church or anything like that. My morals are based on, you could argue your parents have a doctrine and they teach it to you, but I also have fundamental views that are different than both my parents. So you could argue it either way. But I don't think I'm defined by my doctrine, though I do, at this point in my life, being in my 30s, I do have a set rules that I follow that I wouldn't, give up or would go against, if you want to talk doctrine like that. Podcast's been going on a while. I was only intending these to be about an hour of bitching. Bitch, moaning, complaining podcast. But the last issue we were going to talk about is sports. So this is going to interest absolutely no one. Sports-wise, we have our Dallas Cowboys fucking up against the Green Bay Packers. Dan Quinn must have been so pissed off. But we got, as I said in my NFL picks on Sunday, and we did beat the Vikings. We trounced the Vikings, but I wanted to talk about that. Both the Eagles losing to Washington, and we also, the Green Bay Packers beating the Cowboys, which makes no fucking sense. Both games, very poorly refereed, clearly both in favor of Washington and Green Bay, respectively. And I can say that with a full force because I hate the fucking Eagles, too. And it's good for us if the Eagles lose. In our division as a Cowboys fan, but no, the Eagles were done dirty by the referees, and so were the Cowboys. We had that game in the bag. There were too many non-calls and too many bullshit calls in that game for there to be any type of fair refereeing whatsoever in both games. And then also, our defense did not show up. As much as I would like to blame the refs for the entirety of it, no, I'll give the refs 20%. I'll give 80% to our defense. Our defense did not do their job, and we let Aaron Rodgers walk all over us somehow in the worst year of his career. And I don't know how we let that happen. But then, after that abysmal week, we went into this last Sunday, and we 40-3 on the Minnesota Vikings, an 8-1 team. So yeah, we might have lost to a shitty Green Bay Packers, but we also beat the number 2 team in the NFC. We didn't just beat them. We destroyed them. We dominated them. We made them fucking want to cry home to their mommy. We did a fantastic job. So, I think Dan Quinn went up to his defense and said, look at what the fuck you assholes did against Green Bay. We should have they shouldn't have scored a single goddamn point, and look what you fuckers did. You get out there and you fucking, I'm sure Dan Quinn fucking went up one side of these boys and down the other. And clearly it did something because 40-3. That can't be denied. But I want to talk about something that because I had a shit week, by the way. Most of my picks were wrong, especially the 2 o'clock games. I was fucking wrong. I was wrong as shit. So, but my brother's going to win the week. He's going to win $50 once San Fran, I believe, did San Fran win? It's just about time. I was watching that game. San Francisco, they were winning, and they won. They were assumed to win. I picked them. So my brother just won $50. He won the week. So kudos to him. He won the $50. In our pool, he won the $50. That's great. Because all San Francisco did was have to win. That was the only way he was going to lose the week was if Arizona won. And one of 2 other people picked, out of 55, picked Arizona, and he lost the tiebreaker, which the unlikeliness was there, but it still could happen. I lost a week that way once last year, so, but good for him, he won the week, but so San Fran won. So I did middle of the pack. I got like 8 points, 9 points this week out of 14. It's not great. So I'm slipping. I'm still slipping. I'm falling further and further behind. But I'm actually pissed off because you know, the Cowboys were winning. We were dominating, right? And on TV, you know, all that stuff. Because we were beating them so bad, guess what they did? They switched the game over. Those motherfuckers, I swear to God, it's not me. It's not me being a Cowboys fan. They have a fucking hate on for Cowboys. Like the networks do, because all of a sudden, God forbid we are fucking dominating a game, and they switched the game. When we were up like 30-something in the just at the end of the third quarter, they switched the game over to a more interesting game. You fucking maggots. You fucking fuckers. Like, one time I get to watch my team fucking destroy a great team, because the Minnesota Vikings are a great team. They only lost one game before they lost to us. But we don't even get to watch the end of that game. And then non-Cowboy fans are going to go on and tell me that the league and the networks and everything is not against... The refs are not against the Cowboys. Fuck you. Fucking bullshit. You're so full of shit, it's unreal. You're so full of... If that was the Patriots game going on, or if that was the Tampa Bay because they're fucking Golden Boys, the quarterback, they would have played that game. It doesn't matter if it was 65-0. They never would have switched over from a Patriots game. They never would have switched over from a fucking Packers game. They never would have switched over from a fucking Tampa Bay game. They never would have done that. But because the Cowboys, God forbid that the Cowboys fans get to watch us dominate. You know, they had to switch over. Oh, this game's over. Well, I don't give a fuck. I want to watch the other 3 touchdowns we're going to get in the fourth quarter. Fuck off. So, yeah. So, yeah, and I don't got anything to say about... even though this was a while ago, Houston won the World Series. Good for Houston. I'm not a big baseball guy, but I heard about that. I haven't been watching any basketball. Hockey's going on. Montreal is part of the 500 club, so is what it is. But I don't get into hockey. I generally speaking don't get into hockey other than a Montreal-Toronto game, maybe a Montreal-Boston game. I don't get into hockey until after football. I follow football religiously, and then that's it, you know. So, let's see. And so that's it for sports, I guess. We'll catch up with the chat and then end the podcast. Caden said, "What do you mean exactly?" Yeah, as a doctrine, I guess, is what you're asking. Caden said, "Peter Scully is probably going to be one of the most disgusting human beings to ever exist and should be tortured for the rest of his life, and then when he dies, get tortured internally and with no mercy." Who the fuck is Peter Scully? Now I gotta look that up. Peter Scully is an Australian sex offender. 1 count of human trafficking, 5 counts of rape by sexual assault of underage girls. Yeah, then yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree with you. Fuck that guy. Joseph said, "Who here watches or at least knows me, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid or Miss Caretaker Shunahara So?" No, sorry. The only thing I watch is that has maid in the title is Maid Sama, which is all about usui stuff. Joseph said, "Now in real life I would call some of the relationships in these shows weird and maybe report them, but since they're just fictional characters and fictional stories, there's no real reason to get upset." Yeah, I don't know the shows, so I would have to... But once again, I think lolly is pedophilia. If you're into lollies, that's pedophilia 101. Caden said, "Green Bay dog walks the Cowboys." They didn't dog walk them. We were 28-14, if you recall. We went to overtime. We just got shit out of luck because we made stupid... To be fair, the defense was trash. We made dumb plays on offense, and the refs were against us. But to be fair, there was a lot of plays that they didn't call and pretend not to see. Yeah, exactly. Like Pollard getting every first down and then being called back every fucking play in the overtime. Fuck off. Stop that. That's dumb. Yeah, we won that game. Green Bay fucking... It was Lambeau, so the Green Bay... They were against the Cowboys. They were always going to make them win. Joseph says, that's how I view it. Are there others who can agree? I mean, it depends on the situation. I'd have to see the series. Kane said, if it's fiction and make-believe, then it's fine to a certain degree, kind of like Stephen King, and then with that one scene in the book that no one talks about since it's fiction and no one really cares. You mean in It? Yeah, because that's creepy. Kane said, why don't you buy tickets to a Cowboys game in Texas, and when you finally come down to my home state, you can finally try Whataburger, which is 100% better than Five Guys. I'll tell you why. My brother and my dad actually did go to a Cowboys game when they got a free trip. They won it through the Cowboys.com or whatever. They won. They got to go down. It was fantastic. They had a great time. I never got to go, but I'm also I'm not allowed to go to the States. So, criminal records suck. Let's leave it at that. Criminal records suck. I'm still trying. I'm working on that to this day with Homeland Security, but for right now, I'm not. I used to travel to the States, and now I'm not allowed anymore. So I have to fix that. So I can't physically. I'm not legally allowed to go to the States. So. Otherwise, I would. I've been to LA, been to New York, been to Philadelphia, been to Florida, been to Disney World. I've had some okay experiences and some great experiences. So I really do want to go to a Cowboys game. Never been. Joseph said, by the way, I'm mainly talking about Luko and Shota, and sort of Kana and Sakawa and Liliu and Take. I don't know who these characters are, but all right. Kane said, a lot of Japanese animes, if it was real life, would be 100% illegal. Yeah, that's true. Like the teachers dating students. Yeah, that's a big thing. See, we forgive it when it's like, there's a series that I love. It's Unbalanced X2 or Unbalanced X Unbalanced. It's a female teacher in her late 20s dating a high schooler. I'm good with it. I read the whole thing and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. They bring it up in the series and I'm like, yeah, fuck off. She's dating an older woman. Doesn't matter. Because I remember being a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid and not giving a fuck and totally would have dated a 35-year-old. You know what I mean? Totally would have done that shit. So, realistic as it is, when you look at it from the open perspective, it's like, yeah, no, that's not acceptable. It's like, why the fuck not? You know? So, yeah. I just remember being a kid, being in that light. So, let's see. Dating students and the other activities they do, but since it's fiction in Japan, no one really cares that much. That's true. Kane said, why don't you try burger in a can? It is a real thing if you don't believe me. I would never eat burger in a can. I know what you're talking about. Not going to try burger in a can. Sorry. And Whataburger, isn't that Mark Wahlberg's brother's burgers or whatever? Kane said, and you could try ranch dressing soda. No, thank you. Or buffalo wings soda. No, thank you. Or bacon soda. No, thank you. Or, which are all disgusting. Don't ask me how I know. Oh, I know how you know. I know you gave it a go because of the idea of bacon being bad in any way doesn't sound possible. Or buffalo wings. But it's entirely possible. I believe you. Alright, well, alright, so only meant for this to go on for a little over an hour, and now we're at an hour and a half. So that's basically it, guys. This is me bitch moaning and complaining on a podcast. Number one, talking about, and we never really did get to talk about Kevin Conroy a little bit, but maybe we'll talk about that next time that I decide to do this. These are not scheduled in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, we got to talk about the Green Power Ranger Jason David Frank and his death, very sad death at 49. We didn't get to talk about Kevin Conroy that much, dead at 66, being the Batman. But maybe we'll talk about him next time. Got to bitch, moan, and complain about some work issues for 10-20 minutes. And talking a little bit about sports. Because I know an anime manga channel is so used to me talking about football. So, anyways, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's the podcast for this week, this day. Probably will only do these once a week, if at all. Like, it depends. You know, I might not do them every week or whatever, but I'm definitely not going to do them, you know, twice a week or 3 times a week or anything like that. At most, maybe 6 days apart will be the bare minimum for these things. But yeah, no, I just thought I'd have some fun, do some stuff, bitch, moaning, and complaining with all you fun people. So thanks very much to the chat, being Joseph, Caden, and Kato, for popping in and saying Yahoo. Once again, the VC was open to a couple of friendly folks, but they happened to be busy. So that's unfortunate. But in future podcasts of the Bitch, Moan, and Complain, we will be sure to have a couple of people on there to, once again, tell their own issues and stuff. And if there's not a whole lot going in the live chat, there's always issues online to discuss and stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This is basically a haphazard idea of a podcast. There's no real set things. I picked 3 topics and I go with it. So anyways, so we'll talk to you guys later, and hope you guys join the next one of Bitch, Moan, and Complain podcast. It's been nice chatting to everybody and getting a lot of the load off my chest, so to speak. And hey, great that the 49ers won Monday Night Football, because I know you guys care so much about that. So we'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Later. Sayonara. Hasta la vista, baby.